So today, me and Mish, we will talk about the topic female pleasure, the myths and the truths. And we're both going to share how we look at this, what we think about this, what is my perspective, what is Mish her perspective on this. And then we will touch upon the 4 myths and the 4 truths about female pleasure. So let's dive in. So female pleasure is a really huge topic, right? There are actually so many myths and truths around female pleasure. And I think like many of them, they are still around because female pleasure is or has been viewed as not important and even like dangerous, not so long ago, and still in many countries and many places in this time and age, women are still getting punished for expressing and experiencing pleasure, especially when it comes to sex. So, even if I talk about myself, like I live in a very liberated country in the Netherlands, we even have the red light district here in the Amsterdam and all of that. So, it's on the outside, it looks very liberated, but there is still so much subconscious programming going on when it comes to female pleasure, when it comes to sex for women. And we're not aware of how much we are still limited in our expression when it comes to female pleasure. So I feel that we are still subconsciously really being influenced on when it comes to female pleasure. And I would love to hear, what's your perspective when I say female pleasure? Like, what comes up for you when you think about this topic, female pleasure, Mish? I invite you.
Yeah, I really love how you just described where you live is so liberated and like free in sexual expression. And I live in Northern Ireland, which is very deeply repressed sexual expression, like deeply, deeply, deeply repressed in so many different ways and different areas. And so then for each person individually, in my opinion, is like that's deeply embedded in the bones. So it's very hard to step into liberation or self-expression sexually because so much societal and cultural conditioning here.
Yes, and that's interesting because that they're both European countries, and you think like in Europe, it's all liberated and free, and all this had the really huge conditions of repression in female pleasure. It's in other countries outside of Europe, but that's actually not the case. So yeah, it's really a big topic. So I would like to dive into the first myth of when it comes to female pleasure. And the first myth that came up for because there are many myths and truths. So I just sat with it, and what came up for me is that I hear a lot, and especially also even from professionals like gynecologists or like general practitioners, that the clitoris is the only pleasure organ in the female sexual center. So women can only orgasm or can only experience pleasure through the clitoris. And that's a myth, right?
Yeah.
And I would love to talk about it. Like, why do you and me, because we both feel that this is a myth, and there can be, like professional other people that say like, yeah, but that's not true. So what I want to first say is like, I know that there is very little research done on female sexuality, female pleasure. And the little research that is done, there is some things known about the clitoris now, but even until I think 2 years ago or something, the research that was done on the clitoris was done on a pig, not on an actual human, not on an actual woman. And now they know they actually have decided, how do you call that? Like taken apart the human organ of the clitoris, and they discovered that it has actually even more than 10,000 nerve endings. But what I know from my work and even from myself is that there are so many more different parts in the sexual center of a woman, like around the clitoris. There is, of course, the clitoris. I actually have her here. The 3D version. So yeah, those parts are going out into the inner labia, the outer labia. So that's still the clitoris, of course. But they say like the G spot, you're still actually stimulating this part of the clitoris. But I know that deeper inside the vagina canal, there are a lot of different spots that also give pleasure, but even allow us to orgasm. And I mean, I would love to hear like what is your experience like from working on your own body, but also talking to clients. Like what have you discovered?
Like I discovered, like what I talk to so many people. So many people think that like, they have a view of sex and it's just penetration, getting to orgasm, and um, a lot of women that I talk to are like the men, from a heterosexual relationship, the men don't know how to pleasure a woman. The woman doesn't know how to speak on that, to ask for what they need. And generally, it's either, it's a clitoris orgasm or it's quick, or sometimes women don't even orgasm at all. And what I share with people is like, they have a whole body to explore, like sex isn't just that like final act to get to an orgasm. And I
Yes.
share with so many women that I work with is set the orgasm down and begin to explore your body, and like run your fingers like through your hair, like over your skin, find out how you like to be touched, like all of these different things, because we've got a whole landscape of our body to explore and to find out what feels really good, what turns you on, what like lights you up. And when you discover and figure that you can do it yourself, self practice first, and you figure out like, how does this body work? And then how can I communicate that to my lover? You know? So like there are so many different types of orgasms, and I'll probably not name them all right now. And it doesn't mean to say that like you need to go and discover all of these.
Yeah.
It's just that these are available. These are available for you to explore, to try out, to feel what feels really good. Um, and see what fits. There's like you've got the you've got nipple orgasms. People can orgasm from nipple play.
Yes.
There is anal orgasm. There is the G spot, which is, which is squirting. There is, fantasy. People can have an orgasm just by having a fantasy of, all of these thoughts going inside of their head, and one of the most like incredible experiences I ever had was an energetic orgasm where feel that deep inside, like a turn on inside of your body, and you circulate that. Like it's a lot of like tantra based stuff. You circulate through that your body, and you build that energy, and like your whole body goes into an orgasm, and it's mind blowing. You know, it is like something else. And yeah, like sometimes with the clitoral orgasm, it can just be like click of your fingers and it's over.
Mm.
And sometimes with orgasm, when you begin this connection with your body, and oh yeah, so another type of orgasm is like a blended orgasm where you have like stimulate the clitoris and nipple, and like that's a blended orgasm. So I want to say years ago I had that poof orgasm over in like 3 seconds, and I didn't know there was anything else available. I had no idea what else was available, and I think I was terrified, or it was dirty. I was raised for it to be like dirty, or there's only certain types of people that, I didn't know what was available, if I'm honest. I heard whispers. There was things like, I think there was a big revolution with A.L. James brought out the book 50 Shades of Grey. Like there
Mhm.
was the topic and the conversations kind of arose from that. I didn't know it was available.
Yeah. And what I loved what you said, like, to feel, touching your hair, for example, and even get pleasure from that, you can even get orgasms through just touching your hair, for example. And I remember that I had one client coming to me who was struggling to experience pleasure through orgasm with her partner. And she thought it was wrong because she could actually get orgasms from walking outside and feeling the wind go through her hair. And she thought that was wrong, that her body was making a mistake there. And I was like, no, that's amazing. That's, beyond the clitoris, and you don't have to do anything for it. It just comes to you naturally. But because, like you said, all the conditioning that we receive, we think that's wrong, and we are centered and focused only on, like, it should be there and it should only be through penetration. And another thing, what I wanted to add to all the beautiful examples that you gave of what is possible and how your body is like a landscape of pleasure to be discovered, is that you can also have cervical and orgasms, but connected to the womb. Like for me, for example, I can feel that pulsation almost in my womb, and it feels so pleasurable. And they are not the nerves there, they're not connected to the clitoris, they're completely separated. And the only research that I did find on orgasms is, for example, that what I did on women who are how do you call it in English, when they have a car accident and they have a spinal cord injury.
Yeah.
So excuse me. So then the nerve endings that come from the clitoris, they normally travel through your spine, go to your brain, and then you can experience pleasure. But if everything down there is completely numb, you cannot move your legs, those nerves cannot travel up to your brain anymore. So basically it means you can't experience orgasm. But when those women were stimulated on the cervix, they did experience orgasm. And that's because on the cervix there is the nervous the vagus nerve that goes, it doesn't need a spinal cord, it goes straight to the brain, and they could actually orgasm through the stimulation of that nerve at the cervix, which is amazing, which is like, that's the myth is busted there. Women can actually orgasm, yeah, from other places than the clitoris.
I
Yeah.
really love that you touched on this topic. Like I've got like so excited. You know, whenever somebody says something, you're like, oh my God, yes, I kind of feel that.
Yeah.
So I was going to share that I worked with a woman who was paralyzed. So she was paralyzed and she had to learn to walk again, but hadn't had an orgasm because all of the sensation down in, you know, her genitals there was no sensation there.
Yeah.
And she deeply wanted to have an orgasm. And so I worked with her on different ways that she could have an orgasm and, bridge those connections. She had an orgasm and she was like, oh my God, like like can't remember how many years before she hadn't had an orgasm. But by working together, she was able to achieve an orgasm. And like, she lit up on her face. Like, she was with a partner, they'd never been able to like he'd never been able to give her an orgasm in their time together because of her, what had happened to her. And she was able to ask for him to explore this new way with her. And the two of them were like blown away by like what was possible. And she never knew that that was available to her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
And the truth, so this is one of the truths, like the truth is the clitoris is the only human organ that is made just and solely for pleasure. But as we now discovered, there are so many different other parts in the body that can also create pleasure and even orgasms. So yeah.
I don't know if I said, did I say anal orgasm? Did I say
Yes,
that?
you already mentioned that also.
Make
Yes.
sure I go
Yeah.
there because
I even heard people that can orgasm through that big toe. So
yeah,
there are so many things
like
possible. Yeah.
like
Yeah.
like just back to that whole thing, like we have a whole body. And
Exactly.
like what you said about the woman having like the wind blowing through her hair and feeling that pleasure.
Yes.
It's it's noticing and that permission of, oh, I'm allowed to feel pleasure with that thing that
Yes.
feels really weird.
Yes, and that's a beautiful bridge actually to the next myth and truth, because the next myth and truth is, the myth is sexual desire should always come spontaneous, and the
Mm.
truth is most women, especially in long-term relationship, they're experiencing responsive desire. So what your experience expressed just now of like, am I allowed to experience this? You know, the woman that was actually, you know, the response of like feeling the wind blow through her hair, that was actually activating her desire, but she didn't allow that to happen because she thought, my partner should do that for me. He should touch me and then I need to feel that desire, or I need to feel spontaneous desire. I need to have that feeling first, and then I can step into that step of, you know, having sex. But she couldn't feel that spontaneous desire, because in a way it's almost like, you know, you're standing in your own way of feeling that wind blow through your hair and having that responsive desire of how that feels, and that allowing you to activate your desire, and then from there invite in your partner, or, you know. But so many women are yeah, really stuck on it should be spontaneous, while, yeah, exploring how to allow that responsive desire to be activated, either, you know, through yourself, yeah, exploring this beautiful body, but also, yeah, inviting your partner in a different way. So I would love to hear also from you, like, what is your experience with working with your clients and discovering about these two different types of desires?
Yeah, I call that simmering, you know? So it's easier to then go from like that simmering to like feeling that beautiful sensation and aliveness to then lead to sex, then go from no sensation and then your partner or your lover like coming and going, I would like sex, and like you're not in the mood, like you're like, no, we're not, you
Yes,
know. And it leads to women then having obligation sex. So like,
exactly.
I will have sex with you because I know that you need it and I love you, and
Yeah,
I'll give myself
and
for
like,
you.
if I may add something to there, a lot of my clients, they come and they have done that obligation sex so many times that now the whole autonomic nervous system is like avoiding that already, so they can already feel ahead of time, like, oh my God, he's coming on to me again. So, you know, I run away, or I start a fight, or I freeze completely. So they really feel completely blocked there also. Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. And I've worked with so many women because I work specifically with people who are women who are going through separation and divorce. And it's like, that's one of the biggest things is like, where in a relationship, it's that almost feeling repelled by your partner and not understanding how you got to that point. It was because all of those times that you had sex and you abandoned yourself, like you didn't say no, I'm not available. You give yourself over. And so
Yeah,
you're
or you
like,
weren't completely ready, or
we're
yeah, your body
ready.
wasn't completely ready, or wet enough, or aroused enough. Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and I think that's the other thing is a lot of women don't realize we need, you know, as a female body needs so much more arousal than a body with a penis. Like, you know, we need so much warming up stimulation, and that's normal. There is
Yes.
nothing wrong with your body if you need a lot of touch points, connection, a lot of warming up. Generally, female body, you know, women with vulvas can't actually just go straight into sex. We need a lot of softening, a lot of invitation, a lot of
And
opening.
if I add there also like research, because there are some researches done, they say that women, they need between 20 to 45 minutes to actually get warmed up. And what
Yeah.
I always say to my clients is like, actually, you know, start the foreplay, the warming up, when the last sex session has finished, because just, you know, like we said before, feeling that wind through your hair, or like, you know, building up on that intimacy together as a foreplay, and that can take, for example, another week or 3 days or whatever. And I really feel that that playfulness is missing a lot in this. Yeah.
Really is. And just to touch on, you know, I've had lots of conversations with women who can't self-pleasure at all because they feel that they're betraying their partner,
Yes.
because they feel that that's their role essentially, and that, and also, you know, women who have expressed that they can't do it because their partner feels betrayed with they, you know, if they go and touch themselves. So
Yeah.
those are a lot of barriers to overcome, you know. And I suppose it depends on each, if each different dynamic, like in the relationship that you're in, it's that, you know, invite in the conversation to go, I would like to explore my body, I want to see what's available for me, you know. And I really like what you said, like about the foreplay begins from the end of sex until the next time you have it. It's, you know, if you feel that sensation of like the breeze in your hair, it's just like activate that, like even whenever you're inside, like if you love that sensation,
Yeah.
you know, touch yourself, you know. So it's not always reliant. That's a lot of pressure to give all of your sexual pleasure over to the other person and
But also
expect
you're giving
them.
your power away then, in
You're
a way.
giving all
You
of
hand
your power.
everything over to him, or yeah, or your partner. Yeah. If your
Yeah, like
partner.
everything is given over. And then whenever you're not fulfilled sexually,
Yeah.
then, you know, there's a lot, resentment can build, and there can be a lot of pressure on the relationship. Whereas if you pleasure and you self pleasure, and like that comes in so much different forms. Like
Yeah.
it can be pleasure of eating things, of smelling things, of just general touching your body. It doesn't have to be sexual. Those are really beautiful things to keep your body warm, to keep yourself open to receiving pleasure. Then whenever sex does happen with your partner.
And for a lot of women, there are so many different layers of conditioning, of trauma, of limiting beliefs, of like programming, or whatever is there like blocking them. So even like all the things that we talk about, for many women, it's really hard to break through all those, you know, conditioning programs, limiting beliefs, to actually even feel that they can feel that, or even start, because, you know, sometimes it's almost like, yeah, I want to experience that pleasure, but I don't know what I'm doing when I'm touching my own body. Like, what the hell am I doing? So to also know that it takes time to break through those patterns, and that it's a multi-layered thing, and there's, you know, so many different things that actually influence on how we can explore that part with ourselves first and foremost, and then of course invite our partner in there too. And I think also a big thing is that there is so much taboo still on you know, like communication, and we're actually touching upon also the next myth and truth. So let me just say them out loud so that we continue in this direction where we're going now. So the myth is that you need to be in a partnership or be with another person to experience sexual pleasure. And the truth is, your sexuality is centered in your relationship with yourself. And I think what we touched upon now is that that's where it starts, to explore, like, what do you like? How does that feel? You know, and how can you slow down to actually start feeling again? Because sometimes, you know, the body and the mind is so um, in the survival mode in a way, that it's really hard to get out of that and to actually start feeling, because you first need to feel safe to actually start feeling. But when you're in survival, there's no space for that. And I think slowing down is like one of the big keys to help women to actually start experimenting with what we've just talked about. And I wonder, like, Mish, what do you suggest, like, that women can do if they're listening to this podcast or watching this video on YouTube? Like, what do you suggest is a key element to start exploring yourself and getting that desire activated within yourself, by yourself, and then from there invite your partner in?
probably have like two suggestions. And I would say I would recommend a book that was a pivotal change for me in the because sometimes we need to hear a completely different perspective so then we could try different things on. But it's Pussy, a Reclamation by Mama Gina.
Mm.
Like, if you haven't read the book, go read it. And I'm probably giving myself this advice again. Like, if you've read it before, re-listen to it because if you've read it before, you're in a different place now. Obviously, something might have shifted and changed, and then you get read it again from a different perspective. And she touches on one of the things that I really heard, and I do within my work, is like dressing, like wearing something that makes you feel good in
Mm.
life in general, like not just in the bedroom, like
Yes.
if lingerie is not your thing, like, take that time and notice, do I love the clothes that I'm wearing?
Yeah, I love
Like,
that.
do I love, and even if it's like, right, well, one day a week, one evening a week, I'm going to wear something that makes me feel really good.
Yes.
And I really would suggest is a weekly date night with yourself. Light a candle, and it's so simple. Light a candle, put on clothes that make you feel really good. Put on some red lipstick or lip gloss if that feels really good, and play a beautiful song. And you can just dance to that song, look at yourself in the mirror. Because that's the other thing is a lot of women don't even look at themselves in the mirror. They're like
Yeah.
rushing past it every day, especially whenever you're aging, you're like, oh my gosh, I can notice more lines coming. I'm getting older, like I don't feel desirable. But pausing and looking at yourself, even looking into your own eyes. And it's hard whenever you first begin it, but it's like sitting in the discomfort of looking at yourself, but gazing. And when you look into your own, that pausing and taking time for yourself, like it probably sounds a bit surface level, but it's just a beginning point, and I think it's really important and
And I
beautiful.
want to add there to that, smile. Because
Yes.
what does a smile do? When you smile to someone in the street, they, well, 99% of the people, they smile back because it's like the mirror neurons in your brain, they recognize the smile and they see a smile, so they feel a smile. So even in the beginning, if you look at yourself and all you can think like, oh my God, that witch, like, ugh, stop, pause, fake a smile, just do your corners, they even have this research where you do like this. You hold a
Oh.
pencil between your teeth and the corners of your mouth, they go up. If you do that for
Mhm.
30 or 40 seconds, just because the corners go up, in the brain, it's registered as corners of the mouth go up. It's a smile. So that means you're happy. So when you are able to start doing that and give that smile to yourself, it doesn't matter that you get lines like, or your hair starts to turn gray, because you genuinely can feel that smile within your own body. And I think that's also a big step to add to what you're saying. And the slowing down, really breathe. Like how many times we feel that we're not breathing, that our breath is really high. And if we are in this automatic nervous system spot of like the survival mode, the fight, the flight, and many women, they are constantly there. It's so important to focus on your breathing, and it's actually so simple, because what it does when you change your breathing, slowing down and deepening your breath, it regulates your whole autonomic nervous system. It slows down your heartbeat. It has an effect on your digestion, on your mood, like all those things. And when you are in that regulated state of your nervous system, then there is also space for desire to come to the surface. So yeah, it's amazing. And with
Yes.
that, actually, we're
And
talking about it all. Yeah, you want to say
to
something?
add really quickly is
Yeah.
that I teach that. So I teach Tai Chi and Qigong every single week. I have local classes where I live. And when I'm teaching, I invite everyone to soften the corners of their lips.
Yeah.
And it's not like, I'm really putting on a smile and it feels really uncomfortable. It's whenever you're sitting and you just soften the corners of your lips. it kind of like it takes, because sometimes you're like really, really concentrating, or you're thinking about the million things that you need to get done, or somebody's annoyed you, you've got angry, or somebody's done something again that like it's just annoyed you. When you soften the corners of your lips, your face relaxes, and you
Yeah.
go from like this stern face to like like your face changes
Yeah.
just by softening the corner of your lips, and you relax your jaw and your body softens from
Yeah.
that one tiny thing, you
Yeah.
know?
And they also say that the jaw, the mouth, they are connected again to the pelvic floor and even the muscles inside your vagina. So yeah, when you
Mm.
can relax that part also relaxes. So it's like, yeah. So we actually, and it's beautiful how we all the time also bridge to the myths that I shared them with you, but you didn't even have the time to read them, so you don't know what's coming. But it's like we're moving there anyway, so it's really beautiful. We're totally in alignment here. But the last myth and truth is, the myth is I need to just relax and feel less stress, and then I'll feel desire for sex again. And the truth is that the autonomic nervous system needs to complete the stress cycle and move all the way from I'm at risk to I am safe. So what we just talked about is actually also, touching upon on this myth and this truth that, yeah, we need to slow down. We need to start relaxing our muscles, but also, yeah, you can say like, okay, I'm just gonna meditate, sit, I'm relaxed, I'm not feeling stressed again. I'm now, no, the stress is out of my body now, so now I should have desire for sex again. But the truth is that sometimes, like when we are so long in this cycle of stress, that we don't even recognize, like in your body, you might say like, I'm not stressed anymore right now. I feel good. But you've been so long in this fight or flight mode that you don't even recognize that that's still stress. And, even for a lot of women, when they move out of that flight and fight, the survival mode, and they go to the regulated state of the autonomic nervous system, it can feel unsafe because they've been so long in that stress mode. So I really like the truth is that completing the stress cycle will actually allow you to become aware of like, oh my God, I actually haven't really been relaxed. And I remember for myself that I've had some traumas throughout my life. And then after my divorce, a couple of years ago, it took me 2 years to suddenly be in a spot where I was like, oh my God, this is what real, deep relaxation and a regulated nervous system feels like. I didn't experience that before. I thought I knew moments where I was feeling safe and I was relaxed, but until I had that experience of like, oh my God, this is what it feels like, I didn't know that. And it took me a lot of time to slow down, do all the things that we talked about, to really feel like I am safe within myself. Like, really, wow, I completed the stress response cycles, but that took a long, long time. So I
Yeah.
also want to say this to let women know that are like, yeah, I'm trying to touch myself, I'm trying to do everything you say, but damn, I'm laying here on my bed and I'm touching my own boobs, and what the hell am I doing here, and nothing happens, I don't feel anything. Yeah, because of this, what I'm just talking about. I had that same experience when I just started, like, what the hell am I doing here, I don't feel nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. And we had a conversation a couple of weeks ago, and I just wanted to touch on this. It's that when you say that about feeling unsafe, some women feel that I'm safe with my partner. That doesn't make sense to me. But
Yeah.
it's not that your partner has made you feel unsafe. It's just that all of life has created a sense of urgency and stress inside of your body. So
Exactly.
that is that response. And also the times where you've had sex and you haven't been fully ready, you've had sex and you haven't wanted, like you haven't like listened to yourself and expressed that, they all kind of create that imprint in your body. So it's not that your partner is unsafe to be around unless it's a really toxic, abusive relationship. You know, they could be the most loving human in the world.
Yes.
And yet your body still feels like that just because of stress and that stress cycle. And so just like what you said, it's that there is that time where when you spend that time with yourself, that can, you know, it can thaw and you can come to this place where that is completely, you know, completed that stress cycle. And then it opens you up to like pleasure that you've never experienced before.
Yeah, and that's beautiful what you just said, because also this is exactly what women that come to work with me, they actually say, like, yeah, but my body, my partner is really hey, is really loving, he is really patient with me, and he is, you know, waiting for me and all these things, and I feel really safe with him, we have a really amazing relationship, but when it comes to sex, I'm just freezing up and I don't know what's happening. And this is exactly, you know, the autonomic nervous system that goes into the stress response of, I need to have sex now with okay, with my loving partner that I feel safe with. But the action of going in there into sex is creating that stress response, that stress, opening that stress cycle. And that just goes fully automatic. It's your, you know, combination of your autonomic nervous system and your subconscious mind that's reading the situation as unsafe, you know. And while yes, you are safe with your partner, but that action is, yeah, your whole system is reading that as unsafe, and then you go into that stress response. So it's really, yeah, you want to say something, go ahead.
Oh yeah, so I wanted to just add to that is this, so though these when that happens, or at times when this happens, that's whenever you check out. That's
Yeah.
whenever women go into their head and they think about, oh my God, I have to wash the dishes out after this, or I forgot to put the rubbish out, or I have all of these things to do when I'm completed here. You
Yes.
know, so you go fully into your mind and you're completely checked out and you're like, I just want them to be finished. I want them to just do the thing and be finished. They're completely checked out of themselves and then there's no room for an orgasm because you're
Exactly.
not in your body. And
Yes.
so like, I just wish yeah, sorry.
No, and also it's like there's actually you know, there is the flight, like I'm going away, the dishes, like something needs to be done. There is the fight, like picking an actual fight with your partner. There is
Mm,
the freeze, where you're just okay, you freeze and you know, let it maybe happen. But there's also the fawn of like wanting to please the other. But there is also the I don't remember what it's called, but it's like an emotional release. So the crying afterwards, or maybe even during. And there's also the sixth one, where you are completely like going in exhaustion, like you're basically falling asleep, or you're basically like checking out because your whole system is just so exhausted. So there's 6 ways of how the nervous system can go into reaction on like how your system is like you know, labeled is or picked up on sex as like, this is an unsafe situation for me. Yeah, well, it's crazy because you're not unsafe with your partner, but it's just how your whole body is responding to this. So I want to, because we touched upon so many different things, I want us to come back to the main topic, female pleasure, and yeah, to just go over a little bit of what we talked about. So we said the clitoris is not the only organ for pleasure and orgasm. It's our whole body. The wind blowing through our hair, your whole body is like a beautiful place to discover for pleasure and orgasm. And that there are 2 different ways of desire, the spontaneous and responsive desire, and how most women need to activate that responsive desire more and allow themselves to activate that, know that it's not wrong to feel orgasmic, pleasurable sensations when the wind blows through their hair, because they think it should be their partner that gives that. And also like how your sexuality, your pleasure is centered in the relationship with yourself, and how the autonomic nervous system needs to complete the stress response cycle, to go from all the way of like I'm at risk or I'm unsafe into I am safe, and to be able to open up for pleasure and desire and beautiful intimacy, and exploring your own female pleasure. Any wise words or tips or tricks or something that you still want to share before we finish off this episode?
Yeah, I think it's I want to bring in, what I want to say, oh, be open, invite the invitation of curiosity here. So no matter where you're feeling, in your body, in your life, in your sexuality, if you feel like you can't take a step forward or do anything, it's that pausing and being open. So can I bring the invitation and curiosity to explore this and see what might, unfold? And then that's whenever things might come to you and you'll explore those ideas.
I love that, because curiosity is an element that is being forgotten a lot of the times, and curiosity goes hand in hand with playfulness. And playfulness is really also like a key ingredient to allow the eroticism to come forward. And I think those are really like the curiosity about yourself, about your own body, and even with your own partner. Then that playfulness can have space again, and from that sensuality, their eroticism, that's all helping to activate that desire to actually experience pleasure in sexuality and intimacy with your partner. So that's really beautiful. And I also want to add to that, to really sit with yourself and even like give yourself the permission for pleasure, because I really feel there's a lot of times that limiting belief that's really stored deep inside of us, of like, I don't really deserve it. Like pleasure is for the other, it's for my partner or for him, or but to say to yourself, to repeat that to yourself, that I am deserving to experience this. And I think that's also a really beautiful step to not forget and to tap into.